Good morning, and I'd like to welcome you to the Migration Policy Institute. My name is Marc Rosenblum, and I'm a Senior Policy Analyst here at MPI. And today's briefing, Lessons from the 2007 Legal Arizona Workers Act, is an opportunity to discuss the research that the Public Policy Institute of California has done on that issue. And this report is some of the first research that has analyzed outcomes of the Arizona law. So we're excited to be helping PPIC release it. The PPIC research on the Legal Arizona Workers Act relates to a lot of work that MPI has done on E-Verify, including a policy insight that we published last month, and on state and local enforcement efforts, including a report that we recently released on the 287G program, and additional forthcoming research we have on sort of the broader enforcement landscape. It also overlaps with MPI's research on migration and labor market outcomes during the Great Recession. And we have some research, including a report that we published last year with the BBC that studies the impact of the recession on international migration in the US and in several European countries. And I think the PPIC paper more generally is important because it's one of the first systematic efforts to examine migration and labor market outcomes in the state that's, ground zero in the U.S. immigration debate and state-level enforcement efforts. So to the extent that states are laboratories of democracy on immigration issues, and we can debate how much they are and how much they should be, we now have a couple of years of experience of how that's playing out in Arizona, and this is one of the first efforts empirically to examine what's going on and to draw some lessons. So I think it's a very important paper, and again, we're pleased to be giving PPIC a forum to discuss it. You can find MPI's related work out in the hallway and on our website at www.migrationpolicy.org. And you can find PPIC's report on their website, www.ppic.org. We're very pleased to have with us today PPIC research fellows Sarah Bohn and Magnus Lofstrom joining us, and thank them for traveling so far. As Magnus pointed out yesterday, with daylight savings time, it's actually like 5 a.m. on their body clocks, so y'all should go easy on them. And after they present their report, we'll have some comments from former Congressman Bruce Morrison, former Congressman from Connecticut, former chairman of the Immigration Subcommittee, former member of the U.S. Commission on Immigration Reform, easily one of the country's leading experts on these issues, and so it's a great honor to have him here with us.
The 2007 Legal Arizona Workers Act clearly had an impact on the unauthorized immigrant population in Arizona. The data and our research shows a substantial drop in wage and salary employment among unauthorized population, again, unauthorized by non-citizen Hispanics. There's evidence of an unintended consequence that a large number of unauthorized immigrants have been pushed out of employment but into self-employment, and there are related concerns with this observation. A couple of points that I think we need to make here is that it did take place. These results we do not think are driven by the recession, but it's also important to recognize that in a growing economy, which we hope to see in the near future, that these results and the magnitude might actually be different. Okay? So as employers are really looking to hiring new workers, what are the results going to be then? What the magnitudes will be might be different, and I'll be happy to talk about that later on. It's also important to recognize that there are only 3, as far as we can tell, employers that have been sanctioned so far. Over time, if employers are learning that there are no penalties to hiring unauthorized immigrants, it's questionable that they would really react to these kind of legislation. And we're really back to where we were, starting with 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act. And so that's something that we also need to keep in mind.
I think the most important thing, though, is to put this in a policy context. What do we do about the problem of unauthorized presence as opposed to what do we do to get our system back on a legal immigration framework, and what does that framework look like, and how do we ensure that that's true. And so it's in that context that I think the conversation about employment verification at the work site should be a prevention conversation as opposed to an enforcement conversation.